Welcome to tonight's episode of Information TV. That's NFTV. I'm your host, 44K. The K stands for Kincaid. On today's episode, we're going to talk a little bit about the Wuhan virus, China virus, Kung flu, COVID-19, a couple of names that's been given to it over these past years. I just got a couple questions for my audience today. Why was it so important to frame the narrative as it didn't come from China? What big money, banks, the government, different institutions were behind the narrative that this was a natural occurrence? Those are the questions that I want answered, because early on in the process, late 2019, early 2020, a lot of people on the internet, a lot of people on the right, even some on the left, were under the belief that it was from a lab leak caused by gain of function research in the Wuhan lab, that's in Wuhan, China, where it happens the virus originated. But as time progressed, you had government officials, people on the left calling people bigots, calling people xenophobes, different things like that, if they just asked the simple question or stated it that it came from China, that it originated from Wuhan, that it came from the lab. So I asked the question to you, my audience, why is that? Why is that? Me personally, I believe that it's money behind it, it's government funds behind it. We don't want that information to get out. Who knows what we're using this gain of function research for? It's something that's heavily contested on the Hill about us operating in that type of research. It's a very dangerous research, stuff that can be used for biological warfare, things of that nature, but it still doesn't excuse the fact that when people ask those questions that they were labeled conspiracy theorists. So without further ado, I'm going to go to a video that I have off of Twitter, and then let's see, we'll talk afterwards.
We saw this first with the proximal origin paper that said, quote, "Our analysis clearly showed that COVID-19 is not a laboratory construct or a purposely manipulated virus," end quote. This was first published on February 17th of 2020. Each witness, I have a simple question. Yes or no? Was there science available to make such an unequivocal statement against the possibility of a lab leak that early on, February of 2020? Dr.
Absolutely no.
Mr. Wade.
No, it was not.
Yeah, I don't have sufficient frame of reference to give an answer.
No.
Next, Peter Daszak of EcoHealth Alliance orchestrated a letter in The Lancet, a prestigious journal, on February 19, 2020 that said, quote, "We strongly condemn conspiracy theories suggesting that COVID-19 does not have a natural origin," end quote. Each witness, yes or no, is the possibility COVID-19 leaked from a lab a conspiracy theory?
Absolutely not.
No.
I would say no, but also it has been approached as such.
No.
So, just off this video that we watched, it just goes to show you at the level that these individuals were silenced or bullied into saying that it was a conspiracy theory. If they said otherwise, they were quickly labeled as outsiders. This is let's see what this is. The panelists unanimously agree that two articles that had sidelined discussions of the lab leak theory for at least a year, the proximal origin article and the Lancet letter,
We saw this first with the,
were not scientifically sounded. So these individuals are on the Hill being interviewed about this, and this just goes to show you that it's a level, it's a cover up that's going on. So with this cover up that's going on, will anyone be held accountable? That's what I'm getting sick and tired of. You have individuals that had to shut had to shut down their businesses. You have individuals that lost everything because of layoffs, were laid off from jobs. You've had people who were journalists or who made money off social media and who were blackballed, kicked off social media platforms because they asked a simple question about the origins of the virus. They asked questions about, did this come from gain of function research, all these different things. And they were either blackballed, they were either labeled conspiracy theorists, they were fired from their jobs. All this huge snowball effect occurred because from the onset of this pandemic, it was a narrative being pushed to the American people. And if you didn't align with that narrative, then you were quickly put into your place. You were quickly disposed of. So who's going to be held accountable for that? It's the same thing that's going on with the vaccine. You have the vaccine was rushed. It didn't go through its normal 5 to 10 year testing period. It was rushed over a 1 to 2 year process. So now it's information coming out that it has adverse effects, and doctors and scientists, anyone who comes out against the vaccine is labeled a conspiracy theorist, is labeled someone who's disseminating misinformation, disinformation. When did we get to the point in society to where asking questions, having a debate or, fact checking and things like that gets you labeled a conspiracy theorist, gets you labeled a propagandist, gets you labeled a pawn for Putin or a pawn for whoever? When did we get to this point? We're getting to a scary point in society to where individuals who think outside the box, individuals who aren't willing to accept the narrative at face value and wants to dig deeper, are labeled instantly. And these corporations and these powerful entities have the power to silence you. They have the power to shut you out. And it's sad to me because our news organizations, mainstream media, New York Times, Washington Post, CNN, MSNBC, ABC News, these are stories that would win writers, journalists, media members Pulitzer Prizes in the past. But yet these days, they're not even willing to take that risk. And that's the scary thing, because the media is there to hold these corporations and hold these politicians to account. They're there to question. They're there to be the voice of the voiceless. And if for whatever circumstance that has arisen because of 24-hour news cycle, because of ad dollars, because of whatever, we've lost that these days. We've lost that, and now you have a situation to where no one is willing to ask the hard questions. No one is willing to do, and I'm talking about strictly with these mainstream big corporate news organizations. No one's willing to buck the trends when everybody's going right. Ask questions to the left, and let's see if the facts match up. So what do we have to do in today's day and age to get back with that? And the crazy thing is, even though we're in a polarizing point in time where no one can get along with each other on the left or the right, and you either have to choose a side, it's crazy to me that people on the right seem to be the ones at least willing to ask the questions, at least willing to dig a little deeper, at least willing to not accept everything at face value. Now, what I do hope ends up happening is, even if a Republican president gets nominated, that the news organizations on the right are going to be willing to still do that. I don't want my news to align perfectly with who's ever in office based on what they're leaning towards. I want news organization, media companies to ask the tough questions. So then they're forced to give the tough answers, and then they're forced to enact policies that benefit the populace as a whole. That's what I want. I want situations like people like this being called up to the board and being asked these questions. This should be a bipartisan panel where you have Democrats and Republicans asking these questions to get an understanding on why did this happen. So that's all I got for you guys today. I appreciate you guys for checking in with Information TV. That's NFTV Weekly. I'm your host, 44K. K stands for Kincaid. Y'all be blessed.